This is a Molten Metal moment with the Roadie. With me on the show tonight I've got a very special guest, Dennis Wilcock, member of Iron Maiden in the early days.
I did 2 years with Maiden. It was the formative year of what you see now. Basically, this was the start. I brought Dave in, he was the replacement. We then decided that we needed a second guitarist, because obviously you would do, you get rid of two, you want to have another two in, because that's how Steve was writing. So I had another friend who I just had been driving on the road, and I think Steve was in. So that story goes, Steve was in the car. I can't remember that, and it just happened to put up the lights, and Bob Sawyer, or Bob Angelo, as he's known some places, was standing at the lights. And I just said to him, "How you doing? What are you doing?" So he said, "Oh, I'm bombing around playing that." I said, "Well, do you fancy coming down for a tryout with this band, Maiden?" And he said, "Yes, he did." So that's how you end up with the two guitarists. This, theoretically, is still Steve's band. Steve is the one who set this band up, albeit there is a discussion which I've had with another drummer, a drummer called Vic Scott, who remembers that we did, him, myself and Steve got together and we were discussing names for a new band. And I can't remember this, I'll admit to it, but he knows, and he seems to have a very good memory, that there was a choice between Iron Maiden and Mountain Ash. Now, he wanted Mountain Ash, but Steve wanted Iron Maiden. I think I would have gone Iron Maiden anyway, but there was obviously a history for them. That would never have been mentioned anywhere, not in any DVD or anything. What came with me as a package, because of Vic, we were one of the only bands to have pyros in a pub, to have lighting rigs, we had a massive PA system, 4,000 watts in those days, when most people were walking around with a 200 watt WEM system. We it's all mine. I said, if we're gonna do this right, we do it correctly. Now, as regards to the theatrics, which is what I try to do, knowing that basically Steve and Dave on one end of the stage were like, I suppose, the bridesmaids. That's where they were. The bride and groom were me and Bob Sawyer at the other end, because he was definitely, that's why I brought him in, because he could camp it up and he could act the part on stage where he would be doing all the bits, because we had a common interest in a band, New York Dolls, who were really much they came on and they posed it, which is what we did do. That's what we liked doing. So that was the stage, and then from there, obviously, as regards to having the lights and everything else under the sun, that Vic brought with, that he came with me, and that's what he brought into the gigs. We by chance, the origination of the Prowler Mask, which in a way was, I suppose, the route they took to Eddie. I've been told this. I'm not saying it. I've been told, oh yeah, we can see where that came from. That I went away for a Christmas to you might have heard of them, Butlins already. Yeah. Well, we went away, a whole group of my friends. They were doing music. They were not music people. In fact, they were more car people. We were into cars and drag racing and things like this. We went away one Christmas, and while we were in the camp, bit of a dismal bloody Christmas anyway. But there was a guy walking around with this mask, which was the original Prowler Mask, and my friend went up to him and said, asked him, I said, go and ask him where you get that mask from. And he went up and he come back with the mask. The guy said, you can have it. And that's the Prowler Mask. That mask is what I used. And when I was using the mask, I thought, hang on a minute. And I seen there's 2 or 3 bands that have always held a place in my heart. And that's, one is Tubes, because I think the Tubes were totally and utterly theatrical. Everything they did, in fact, they had half music, half almost like a stage show of acting. That's the way they were, with Ray Styles and all the others in the band. It was always a little bit of the sort of statesmanship that they would put into it. Alice Cooper, obviously, because I felt he led from the front as regards to rock music, and that's the way he took it. Now, everybody says I was a Kiss fan. Yeah, I like Kiss, without a doubt I do. I did happen to go and see the Kiss 2 or 3 times, and I like the idea of seeing Gene Simmons with the blood, and I thought, this is really good. This could be, imagine doing that in a pub. So, which is all that we're doing. Well, we did do, as you know, in the graphics industry where I worked at the time as well as playing, and I had messengers, so I used to send them out to track down who's got, from joke shots or whatever, who's got the next batch of blood capsules and things. So then I had to think of how am I going to bring this into the act? That I just don't want to do what Gene Simmons does, because he did it with a fire throwing and everything else. I thought, no, I've got to have some sort of bit that I can do that's going to make people has he done this? Did this happen? So I was fencing at the time. In fact, the original mask, before I put the makeup on, I used to have a fencing mask with a red heart over the eye on the outside of it, like sprayed on, which was my little thing. But anyway, I got rid of that. We went to the sword. I used the sword. I practiced. I thought, well, okay, if I pull the sword from my mouth and split the blood capsule at the same time, it really does look like I've just cut my mouth open. To the extent that we did a gig where I think we did two. One was as a place in Margate in England where I did it at a club, and two girls fainted, crashed to the floor because they thought that's what was happening. I then had various times when people came up and said, "How can you do this every night? Surely you must, your mouth must be cut to buggery." That and they believed this. They believed that was what was happening. So why do I destroy the myths and let them carry on thinking it? We were building up this act of what would happen, like in Prowler. I would attack Dave. I would attack with the mask on. That would be it. Now, somewhere along the line, somebody said I had a map, but I never had a map. I can't work that one out. But that's almost like CD Soho style, creepy crawly Prowler. I think imagine that down there, strip club and all that. But it wasn't like that. This was an attack on band personnel. So that's what the mask was used for. So the context you see was what I was trying to do, was to build this theatrics around what we were doing, to give people that, this is a very strong hit. Twice we've seen this band, and it did work because they came back. They wanted to see more.
The Molten Metal moment with the Roadie.